Okay, so here we are in Maya, and we're going to accurately recreate the Sony camera that was used to take the photograph of the alley, which we're going to use in the tutorials in coming weeks. So it's a fresh scene, and the first thing I'm going to do is just have a quick look at the outliner, clicking this button here, so you can see what we've got in. We have our default orthographic cameras and our default perspective, which we are looking through right now, as it says perspective, and that shows you what you're looking at in the scene. What I'm pointing this out for is this is the default Maya camera. You can't delete it, and to edit it and start to work with this would be problematic. You want to build your own custom camera from scratch. So I'll deselect that, and we're going to go straight ahead and click our first camera. So there's a number of different ways you could create a camera. You could go to the create menu, but I'm just going to go to the rendering tab. I'm going to create a perspective camera like that, and it's created in there. Now, in order to not get confused, I'm going to rename this camera straight away. So if I go to camera 1 and call it, I can call it match cam. I'm going to also call it, I'll call it match cam for now, and when it's correct I'll change it to Sony, like that. And then we have match cam shape, match cam itself, and we have match cam here in the outliner. Now we can start to edit the properties of this camera. The default we get out of here is got a film gate and an aperture of 1.417 0.945, and this is wrong on a focal length of 35. Well, it's correct for this camera obviously, but it's wrong for what we're going for. So what we need to do is to edit this to make it match our camera. So what we can do is, as I said, if we put a focal length of 8 in here with this aperture, it's just going to give a really wide angle effect. So what we need to do is use the values that we've made a note of. So what we're going to do is take these values and change the aperture of the camera, and we're going to enter this value in the focal length, and that should match our camera. So again, focal length of 8mm, and you can actually see in Maya, if I turn that back up to 35, you can see it lengthening. And of course, if you did whack it up something silly, it goes out even further. But we're going to enter in the 8, and that's really short focal length on this camera, a camera with this aperture and that size. And if we were to look through it, you'd see the effect we would get. So I'm going to go to panels, look through selected, because we have this camera selected, and we can see what it does. Obviously it's flat to the ground there because it's been created 0, 0, 0, and we're looking out into a plane. So I'm going to use Alt and left button to rotate around. After that, I'm going to use the middle button to show you can move, and the right button to dolly in and out. This is a square grid from above, but you can see the huge distortion you have with a focal length of 8mm on a camera of that size. We've not accommodated for the change in scale. So in relation to the camera film back itself, this is a very short focal length. What we need to do is to make sure we calibrate it to be as our camera was. So all we need to do is go in here, and I'm going to lock the focal length like so, and I'm going to go into the aperture and key in those figures that we made a note of earlier. 0.2813 by 0.2109. So if I go down here to the aperture, this is in X horizontal, so it's 0.2813. Straight away we can see a change, and on this side here we're going to change it to 0.2109, like so, and it's rounded up to 211. We've got the 8mm focal length, and we've got the correct apertures, and we also have the correct aspect ratio. Our image is 1.33, so that means it's the ratio between its height and its width, and that's correct. So we can lock those off now. We can lock that and lock that, and we can even lock, I can't actually, we've got that set up too. So if we start to move out using Alt, you may not know it yet, but that camera is correct in terms of being the Sony P200. We can't really prove that at the moment until we start to look at the image in the background. We're going to look at how to load that up and manage that in the next little video. I'm going to take a break for this one and come back. One thing to note though is we have the correct angle of view from our earlier camera. It's 48.13. So everything is looking pretty good.